Hey, let me ask you something we've probably all thought about at some point. Do you believe that the only way to get ahead in business is simply work harder than everyone else? That if you just grind long enough, put in more hours, just push through more exhaustion, eventually the results will come. A lot of us think that way. We see people posting online about 16-hour days and we think, well, maybe that's just what it takes. Some even pride ourselves on being the kind of person who can't be outworked. And trust me, I know all too well about working long days, but what I'm speaking about is the idea that long hours is not what it's all about. And I want to ask this, what if that whole idea is built on a misunderstanding of what work actually is? What if the difference between people who grow quickly and those who stay stuck isn't how hard they work, but how they define work in the first place? So I want to think about that. In this video, we're going to explore a different way of thinking about effort in business. We'll look at what real output actually means, why most of our busy time doesn't move the needle, and how a small shift in how we spend our hours can create surprisingly large results. This isn't about hustle culture, sacrificing your life. It's about working smarter on the things that actually matter and protecting the time to do them. So it's a mix of a bit of systems thinking and some interesting psychology around effort and attention, and a practical way to move forward without burning out. So let's start at the beginning. Part 1, what does work even mean? We throw the word work around constantly. We say we're working hard. We're always talking about how much we're working. I'm always busy, kind of this busy culture. And sometimes it can be easy to admire those kinds of people who are always talking about how much they work, or we can use it as a badge of our worth. But when you zoom in and ask what work actually is, things get interesting. If you ask a physicist, work equals force times distance, for all you nerds out there. That definition is fine if you're pushing a box across the floor, but it doesn't help much when you're a knowledge worker, a founder, CEO, or anyone whose job mostly happens in their head and on a screen, which is more and more people these days. So we often fall back on other definitions. Some people define work by time, the number of hours they sit at their desk or stay logged in. But we all know someone who can work 18 hours a day and still get very little done. I used to work with this vice president who worked a lot, but achieved probably a fifth of what the rest of our team did. But I'll digress. Maybe we'll talk about that another time. So time alone clearly isn't the full story. Others define work by effort, how hard you try. This is the I gave it my all mindset. There's something noble about that, of course. But if effort without results counted, we'd all be handing out participation trophies in business. Trying hard feels good for sure, but it doesn't pay the bills and it doesn't grow anything just by itself. Here's a clear, more useful definition that you might find helpful. Work equals outputs, and outputs come from volume times leverage. So let me explain that. Volume is simply how many times you do a certain thing, and leverage is how much you get out of each time you do it. Your real output per unit of time, the thing that actually moves your business forward, it's volume times leverage divided by the time you spend. In plain language, it's about getting more done or getting more from what you do in the hours you have. So think of it like this. Low volume plus low leverage equals very little output, working hard, but on the wrong things. High volume plus good leverage equals strong output. And high volume plus high leverage equals the kind of work that creates momentum. Most of us intuitively understand leverage. We talk about systems, automation, better offers, and smarter strategies, and that's super important. But what I've noticed, a surprising number of people are falling short on the volume side. We think we're working a lot, but when we actually honestly look at how we actually spend our days, the amount of time spent on high output activities is usually shockingly small. The second thing, part 2, the 4 things that actually grow a business. If we want to increase our real output, we need to get very clear on what activities actually move the needle, actually have an impact. At the most basic level, growing a business comes down to 2 big goals. 1, get more customers, or 2, make the customers you already have worth more, i.e. increase their lifetime value. That's it. Everything else supports one of these 2. So breaking it down further into daily actions, we actually see 4 key levers. Getting more traffic, more people seeing your offer, improving conversion, getting a higher amount of people through the door, raising prices or improving margins, and increasing how much and how often existing customers buy from you. For most small and growing businesses, especially in the beginning and middle stages, the highest leverage use of your personal time is almost always on the first 2, getting more traffic and improving conversion. Why? Because without enough customers, the other improvements, raising prices, increasing LTV, have very little to work with. So you can't raise prices on people who aren't buying yet. So this is where the volume part becomes uncomfortable but useful. If you want to get unreasonably good at bringing in new customers, you have to spend serious, focused time on advertising, outreach, and content creation, and you have to be consistent with it. Not once in a while when you feel motivated, squeezed in between other tasks, but real dedicated blocks of time where that's pretty much the only thing you do. The same goes for conversion. Getting better at sales isn't magic. It comes from repetition and feedback, reviewing what worked, practicing scripts or conversations, qualifying better, improving your offer based on real interactions. The pattern's the same across these activities. Excellence comes through repetition. The more times you do the thing, volume, the better and faster you get at it, leverage. Skills compound. And here's something most of us want to avoid. A lot of our work days are filled with activities that clearly don't lead to these 4 things. We answer emails, tweak the website, put out small fires, attend meetings, reorganize stuff, but then we wonder why growth feels so slow. And it's not that all those tasks are worthless. I mean, some of them aren't. Maybe you're spending a little too much time on social media, but most of our daily work activities matter eventually. But when they crowd out activities that actually bring in and convert customers, we're essentially trading high output time for low output time and then feeling exhausted anyway. Part 3, maker time versus manager time. Protecting the hours that matter. So if the highest output work requires focused repetition, ideally at least 4 dedicated hours a day on traffic or conversion activities, the natural question is, where do we find the time? How can I fit that into my busy schedule? And it's an important question to ask. Most of us feel like we're already busy. Our calendars fill up fast. We're constantly running between tasks. But here's where a useful distinction comes in: the difference between maker time and manager time. Maker time is deep, uninterrupted focus, long blocks of 4 to 6 hours, even a few hours if you can, to get into a flow state, to do high volume work, to do creative work, stuff that actually grows your business. It's low urgency, but it's high importance. This is where real creation and skill building happens. Manager time is shorter bursts, 5 to 30 minutes for coordinating, communicating, handling quick decisions, things like that. It's necessary, but it's a very different mode of operating. The problem occurs when these 2 modes collide. If you try to squeeze tiny manager tasks in the middle of a maker hour, then it destroys the entire block. One 20-minute call can fracture your progress and eat up well over an hour later. A truly productive maker calendar actually looks quite empty. It's protected white space, no meetings, and things like that. On the other hand, a maxed out manager day is packed with back-to-back short slots. Both types of time are important, and I get it, and you can't always get rid of some of those days where you're constantly doing manager tasks. The key is knowing which mode you're in on any given day and protecting the boundaries when you set apart the different times. And when we explain this distinction to our teams, it helps everyone respect the deep work blocks that move the business forward. So some practical habits that help create maker time. Decide the night before exactly which one high impact project you're going to focus on. It can even be the same project for weeks if it's a current constraint, something that you really need to solve that takes more time. Also protect consistent sleep. Going to bed at roughly the same time every night, including weekends, creates more reliable energy than catching up with just doing irregular schedules. And I've got 3 young kids. I know how this goes. It can be super hard for some. You also have to create the right environment. Turn off your notifications, use a quiet or dark space, remove distractions, do what you need to do to get focused. And some people do their best maker work very early in the morning before the world wakes up. Some people find that deep work happens in the evening. Sometimes I'm like that. I actually do a little bit of both some days. I try to get up early and knock out a bunch of stuff before emails start coming in. Other days I decide after I put my kids to bed, I'm going to knock out an hour or 2 of something to get a project done. I'll tell you, and I say this to a lot of people, the work that you do, especially for people that work in full-time jobs, or maybe you're not self-employed, or your job is just too busy to get this stuff done during the day, the people that actually spend their evenings occasionally building get so much further ahead. It's the people that get off work and go waste the night away that will never get ahead. I found in my business that getting stuff done either in the early morning hours or late at night is a huge game changer. It's been a huge game changer for me. Most of the big initiatives or projects that I've completed, most of the things that have built my business or drove us forward are things that I did after hours. You also need to accept that there are not as many true emergencies in business as you might think. real life or death situations are actually pretty rare. Most urgent things can probably wait a few hours. Honestly, all of your customers or your staff are probably going to benefit from your deep work, and they're going to figure it out while you're getting stuff done. Now, with all this, the goal isn't necessarily to work more hours. I'm not trying to say work hard on your manager tasks in the morning and then do all your deep work in the evening. That's not the point of this video. It's just to make sure that you have your maker work set aside so you can be really productive doing the things that are going to actually move your business forward. If you haven't seen this book, Deep Work by Cal Newport, I love this book. This will really help you figure out how to get that deep work done. Part 4, buying time, the most underrated leverage move. Even with better habits, many of us still feel time poor. This is where another powerful idea comes in, buying time. We are usually the highest leverage person in our own business, the one whose focus, effort often creates the most value, the most result. Yet, even that being true, we never want to pay someone to take tasks off our plate when it comes to our personal lives. Think about all the small drains on your energy and attention. Grocery shopping, meal prep, cleaning, laundry, driving, running errands. On average, these kinds of tasks can easily eat up tons of time on a monthly basis for a typical person. Many of the things that you find yourself getting distracted by during the week can probably be outsourced or streamlined. A huge thing for me is getting someone to clean my house. I hate working all week to then spend Saturdays cleaning my house. It's totally worth $160 a month to have someone come every few weeks and do a deep clean on the house. Maybe for you, it's something else, laundry service, meal service, something like that. Think about the amount of time you can save for really a modest cost. Think about what your time is actually worth, and if it makes sense to actually outsource some of this so you can actually be more productive and take some of the things that don't make sense for you to necessarily do off your schedule. If the time you reclaim allows you to create more value than say $15 to $20 an hour, this trade might make sense for you. And I get it. It's easy to feel guilty about spending money to have some of these things done, or we're trying to save money, but sometimes, we need to think about what it is that your time is worth. And if you do feel guilty, here's a useful reframe. Treat yourself as your most valuable employee. If you had a star team member who could create massive growth if only their calendar was cleared, you'd move mountains to protect their time. Yet you hesitate to do the same thing for yourself. The beautiful part is that once you free up this time, you don't need to become 30 times smarter or more talented than everyone else. You simply need to consistently spend those reclaimed hours on the high volume, high leverage activities we talked about earlier. That alone can create huge results for you. Okay, so let's take a step back for a moment and look at this idea through a slightly wider lens, mixing some psychology, systems thinking, maybe a little bit of philosophy, and just some curiosity. At its core, this approach really isn't about working more. It's about becoming more intentional with where our attention goes. Psychology shows us that human attention is a finite and fragile resource. Every notification, context switch, or low-value task doesn't just cost time, it costs energy, it costs mental energy, and it makes deep creative work harder. When we protect long blocks of maker time and remove unnecessary drains, we're not optimizing for hustle culture. We're creating the conditions for something closer to flow, that state where effort feels almost effortless and results compound naturally. If you're not used to doing this and you actually set aside some time for this maker work or deep work without interruptions, you'll be amazed at how much you can build in that time. From a systems perspective, every business is a collection of feedback loops. The inputs we choose to amplify, traffic and conversion, work done with higher volume, create reinforcing loops that generate momentum. The scattered, low leverage activities create balanced loops that keep everything mediocre and exhausting. If you think about it philosophically, this is an interesting question. What are we actually cultivating when we build a business? If we treat our own time and energy as sacred resources, we begin to relate to the business less like something we have to force forward through brute effort and more like a living system that responds to the quality of attention we give it. We stop trying to outwork everyone through sheer willpower and start designing environments, both for ourselves and for our teams, where we can intelligently focus our efforts towards things that are beneficial. There's something worth noticing here. How much of our hard work is actually productive motion and how much of it is just noise we've mistaken for progress? What conditions would allow better work to happen with less friction and more joy? It's something you need to think about. When we start asking these questions, something can shift in our minds. We become less attached to looking busy and more interested in what's actually coming out of our days, out of our output, and we're actually producing stuff as well. Now, this doesn't make the work easier in some superficial way, and it does require more honesty and discipline from us, but it can also give you a sense of control that's very powerful. And in the end, the people who seem to outwork everyone aren't usually working more hours. Many of them have simply become more deliberate about which hours count. So here's the thing, take an honest look at how you currently spend your working hours. How many of them are truly dedicated to the stuff that bring in new customers or improve conversion? How much of your day is scattered across low leverage tasks? You don't need to become superhuman. You don't need to work 18-hour days. You simply need to reclaim a few high quality blocks of time each week and point them consistently at the right activities. Whether that comes from better boundaries and habits, or from buying back time by removing daily drains, the math definitely works out in our favor. We all have the same 24 hours. The difference lies in how clearly we define work and how deliberately we protect the time that matters. I hope this perspective helps you to not work harder, but more clearly. And I hope that your business grows in ways that feels sustainable and genuinely rewarding. I'd love to hear in the comments what thing you're scared of paying for each month, whether it's a laundry service or a cleaner like I do or something like that. I want to hear about the things that you're afraid of to pay for, but you know that you should because it's going to make a good impact on your life. If you comment below, I'll respond back to you. See you guys in the next one.